Say you're watching an entry in a franchise that you absolutely love. This is something that you know the inner workings of, what makes them tick, every single piece of source material to pull from, and you see this version that some massive corporation just put out there and it doesn't meet your expectations. You think that you can do better than the studio-backed system that treated this IP that you love with such corporateness. You want to make a fan film. That's how we got the recently released feature-length fan film, Spider-Man Lotus. I don't know how to put this politely, but this film is just a bad film. It's filled with bizarre lighting and audio choices that make what's going on incomprehensible. The pacing is painfully slow, and that's not even getting into all the real-life problems like the terrible working conditions faced by the VFX crew, the mask-off bigotry and racism from both the director and lead star, and just all-around bad vibes that made this film the most dunked-on piece of art the internet has seen in a long time. All of the film's problems lie solely with the auteur director, Gavin J. Knopp, and everything good about it has been made in spite of his gross fingerprints. Although I do have to mention that the VFX team did a wonderful job. The costume department was punching far above the weight class of that their budget of $112,000 allowed. And this is possibly going to be an awkward footnote in the eventual careers of the actors who portrayed Mary Jane, Flash Thompson, and Gwen Stacy. This film just exudes this same energy of a freshman in film school who's obsessed with Tarantino. And like Tarantino's character in Pulp Fiction, I don't want to waste any more time with the film that the internet has dubbed the racist Spider-Man film. So I won't. Your time can better be spent reading the comics that were used as source material, like Spider-Man Blue, which covered Peter Parker's thoughts as he remembers Gwen Stacy years after her death. Or Amazing Spider-Man issue number 248 story, where Peter visits a kid dying of leukemia and opens up about being a superhero to this kid. With all that being said, there's still very much a discussion to be had about fan films in general. The New York Times says this edgy dumpster fire started a debate on fan films, but no one really has. So I will. Where they come from, and why they're actually good for the art of filmmaking. So let's get into it. From a legal standpoint, you can make fan films, but there's many asterisks in that gray area. Of course, some of those asterisks include things like not making your fan film commercially available, it must be transformative in nature, like you see with parodies, and it can't harm potential markets of the original copyright holder, among many, many more things. There is a fair use defense, but it's not this magic wand that some people think it is, and it all comes down to how good your lawyer is versus the team of corporate lawyers. It shouldn't ever be assumed, but many IP holders have been known to just turn a blind eye to just a couple of friends having fun with the film camera. I'm not here to give legal advice, and every fan film's mileage varies on what the actual rights holders can allow their fans to do. You can look at examples like the 14-year-old Canadian kid who reanimated the trailer for Across the Spider-Verse using Lego, and then adding a scene to the actual film. Then there's examples like the cartoon based off the Super Nintendo and N64 classic, Star Fox. Sorry, I mean the totally unrelated A Fox in Space cartoon that was cease and desisted into oblivion. The idea of fan films has a pretty nebulous beginning. A good early example that I can find that actually fits the description of fan films was Andy Warhol's Batman Dracula, a silent film made without the consent of DC Comics where Batman fights Dracula across New York, and Batman and Dracula are played by the same guy. Copies were never reproduced, but a few clips did make their way online. Then again, Andy Warhol's career and the entire pop art movement was always on shaky ground legally, so I understand. I would just like to know if I'm missing a bunch of context or if I just don't understand art. He also made a 45-minute film of a dude eating a mushroom, so I believe I just don't get it. Another offshoot of fan films could be argued for the unofficial foreign remakes that just blatantly rip off copyrighted material, like the 1973 Turkish classic film 3 Dev Adam, where Marvel's Captain America and real-life luchador El Santo, who wasn't portrayed by Rodolfo Guzman Huerta, team up to take down the evil crime lord Spider-Man. Which brings me to the absolute rabbit hole that I very briefly saw mentioned in my research on fan films, but I never even grasped how massive of a fan base there is for the Star Trek fan film community. These begin in the 60s with a bunch of kids just recreating moments from the show with cardboard special effects, and they certainly ballooned in budget and scale after Enterprise ended in 2005. There's actually an official award ceremony held at Treklanta annually, and the 2020 event alone had 33 different Star Trek fan films in contention. For the most part, CBS and Paramount have handled their fan films well. The entire brand of Star Trek lives on the undying love of the most hardcore fans, so they always saw it easier to just work with them instead of fighting. Their official rules for filmmaking Trekkies who don't want to get sued generally follow the same guidelines. Make it obvious you're not trying to make a legit Star Trek project. Don't make money off it, which also includes the cast and crew, so if you're acting in your buddy's Star Trek film for no pay, you kinda have to be a big fan of the show. And to just genuinely keep it within the same family-friendly tone of the original IP. Trekkies have been pretty good about self-policing themselves so they can keep making fan films that follow these guidelines. As long as nobody rocks the boat, everyone is perfectly happy with these 15-minute fan episodes that appear on YouTube with no ads. The next category of fan films are the shot-for-shot remakes, like the adaptation of Raiders of the Lost Ark, a complete remake by three 12-year-old kids who didn't even have a home release copy of the film to base their version off of. They just had to remember everything from the movie theater and quickly run home to recreate what they remembered. A copy of the film eventually made its way to eventual director of Cabin Fever and Hostel, Eli Roth, who pushed to give the fan film an actual screening at a film festival. This story even became the basis of a 2015 documentary. There was also a live-action 2012 remake of Toy Story using stop motion, which was made by two Arizona teenagers and is still the most viewed fan film I could find on YouTube. The two teens did eventually go to film school and are both still working in the industry to this day. There have been many fantastic examples that I can point to of fans just having a good time. Some fan films are genuinely phenomenal, like the TIE Fighter anime short film created by Oda King Animation, or the German-made Darth Maul Apprentice short film. Both feel like they could stand next to actual Star Wars productions and not even feel out of place, even if they're more or less just really cool fight scenes and have not really much story to them. Or the Metal Gear Solid Philanthropy film, which is still one of the only adaptations of the Metal Gear series, and is definitely one of the only ones that actually make the point that Metal Gear isn't about actually glorifying war. The fan film actually got Hideo Kojima himself to like the film. I mean, Konami did and authorize it, and the proposed sequel, but that just comes with the territory. Yet, without a shadow of a doubt, the best that fan films can be was actually The Green Goblin's Last Stand, a fan remake of the Amazing Spider-Man number 121 and 122, and for complete context, this film was made in 1992 and only cost $400 to make. But holy crap! This shot right here of Spider-Man swinging on a rope is just the director/star just swinging from a rope 4 stories up without a net. He didn't have any kind of money for safety equipment, so he's just the one out there doing all the stunts because he didn't want to risk anyone else's life with his own budget restraints. It's silly, yes, the costumes are laughable, and there's a lot of people getting thrown into a lot of cardboard. But there's actually a lot of understanding of the source material in this film. Everybody gives it their all, and their love of Spider-Man really shows. I'm just saying, Dan Poole did the exact same story as Kevin J. Knopp did 31 years earlier, and not even 1% of the same budget, and it's just hands down better. I'd love to say that fan films are just a first of many steps that many great filmmakers have taken, but sadly, no. Some have, like Adi Shankar, the creative mind behind the Bootleg Universe YouTube series that gave us Punisher Dirty Laundry, or the actual good Power Rangers fan film. He eventually founded the animation studio behind Netflix's Castlevania. And the Hunt for Golem's writer-director later went on to co-direct The Little Mermaid. Not the Disney 2023 one, the 2018 Netflix one that was nothing like the Disney version, or the book for that matter. At the end of the day, fan films are just can't be fun. They're not made to make money, just memories. And I'm all for people having creative hobbies that have no intention of being commodified and sold for the constant grind we're all supposed to be in. But that's just my opinion though. I'd love to know what you guys think about your favorite fan films down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more weekly content on comic books and nerd stuff. I've been Eric, and you've been awesome.